The MCU will ruin Daredevil, and there's no stopping it. Daredevil isn't just another Marvel hero. He's a symbol, the character defined by pain, faith, and the brutal reality of fighting a war you can never truly win. For 3 seasons, Netflix's Daredevil delivered a near-perfect adaptation of Matt Murdock's story. It was raw, violent, and deeply personal. It respected the source material, took risks, and gave us some of the most powerful character moments in comic book television history. And now, the MCU is about to ruin it all. This isn't an exaggeration. It's not baseless fear-mongering. It's a reality that Marvel Studios has all but confirmed through their decisions, their treatment of Daredevil in recent appearances, and the fundamental problem with how they tell stories. This is the full breakdown of why Daredevil, Born Again is doomed, and why Matt Murdock may never recover. The MCU doesn't know what made Daredevil special. Marvel Studios has built an empire on a very specific formula. Light-hearted humor. Quippy dialogue. CGI-heavy battles. Fast pacing. And to be fair, it works for certain characters. Spider-Man, Thor, the Guardians of the Galaxy, these heroes fit that tone. They operate in a world where stakes are big, but the moments are fun. Even when things get serious, there's always a sense of adventure. But Daredevil doesn't belong in that world. Matt Murdock's story isn't about flashy fights against alien invaders. It's about the cost of being a hero. It's about fighting the same battle over and over again, knowing you'll never truly win. It's about how much a person can suffer before they break. That's why the Netflix series worked. It wasn't afraid to be dark. It wasn't afraid to be brutal. It wasn't afraid to explore the psychological toll of Matt's crusade. So what happens when you take that Daredevil and shove him into a cinematic universe that doesn't allow for any of that? The She-Hulk problem, a warning sign we ignored. Let's talk about She-Hulk. Matt Murdock's appearance in She-Hulk should have been huge. It was his first official return to the MCU, a chance to show that Marvel Studios understood who he was and what made him great. But instead, we got a completely different character. Gone was the brooding, battle-worn Daredevil. Instead, we got a version of Matt who was cracking jokes, smiling constantly, and even doing a walk of shame after a one-night stand. Now, don't get me wrong, Daredevil has always had moments of humor. He's not Batman. He's not just a dark, brooding presence all the time. But the version we saw in She-Hulk wasn't just light-hearted, it was sanitized. Where was the pain? The exhaustion? The moral conflict that defines him? It wasn't there. Because Disney doesn't want it there. And that's the problem. The moment Daredevil entered the MCU, he stopped being Daredevil. He became just another quippy Marvel hero. And that should terrify anyone who loves this character. Born Again is already doomed, here's why. Even before Born Again started filming, the warning signs were everywhere. 1. Marvel fired the original creative team and started from scratch. Think about what that means. This isn't just a case of minor rewrites. It means Marvel had no idea what they wanted this show to be. It means they had an entire season planned, and then scrapped it. That's not confidence. That's panic. 2. They originally planned to make it a legal drama with barely any action. Yes, you heard that right. The first version of Born Again had Matt Murdock as more of a lawyer than a vigilante. He wouldn't have even suited up until several episodes in. Now, Daredevil's legal side is important, but if you're making a Daredevil show and you de-emphasize the action, you don't understand the character. 3. The show is being made for Disney+. And this is the biggest problem of all. Daredevil needs a mature rating. He needs brutal, visceral fights. He needs the kind of storytelling that doesn't hold back. But Disney+ doesn't do that. They make safe content. They make mass appeal content. And that means Born Again is going to be watered down beyond recognition. The violence problem, Daredevil can't survive the MCU's limits. Think back to some of the greatest moments in Netflix's Daredevil. The hallway fight. The stairwell fight. The prison riot. These weren't just cool fights. They were intense. They showed how exhausting combat is. They made us feel every punch, every broken bone, every moment of desperation. Now ask yourself, when was the last time the MCU delivered anything even close to that? They don't do realistic, hard-hitting action. They do CGI-heavy spectacle. They do wire work flips and explosions. And that's not Daredevil. The moment they soften the violence, Daredevil loses something fundamental. Kingpin's nerfing, a taste of what's coming for Matt. Wilson Fisk was terrifying in Daredevil. He was a force. When he killed a man, you felt it. When he spoke, he commanded the screen. But in Hawkeye, he was turned into a cartoon character. He survived explosions. He got knocked around like a joke. He lost all the weight and realism that made him so terrifying. And if they did that to Kingpin, what do you think they're about to do to Matt? The MCU is losing its edge and Daredevil might be its biggest casualty. The MCU isn't what it used to be. The storytelling has become lazy. The CGI has become cheap. The humor has become forced. And now they're taking one of the best adaptations they've ever had and they're forcing it to fit into their safe, family-friendly mold. Daredevil was never meant to be a quippy MCU hero. He was never meant to be sanitized. He was never meant to fit into the same world as Thor or the Guardians. But that's exactly what's happening. And unless Marvel realizes their mistake, Daredevil's return might be the worst thing to ever happen to the character. Final thoughts, can Daredevil survive the MCU? So now the question is it too late? Will Born Again surprise us? Or is this just another rushed, formulaic, sanitized Disney Plus product? What do you think? Is there still hope? Or are we about to watch the MCU destroy everything that made Daredevil great? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe because this is just the beginning of the conversation.